Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about The Bet, written by Anton Chekhov. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. This is a very interesting work. This short story is really interesting by um, Anton Chekhov here. Basically, what happens is you get this banker, right? This banker is throwing this lavish party. It's a wonderful party. Everybody's having fun. Everything's just great. Everybody's having a great old time. And while he's having this party, there's this argument that happens, right? There's argument of whether or not the death penalty is better than life imprisonment. Now, a lot of the people, journalists and all these types of people of, somewhat upper class society, they believe that it's better to spend your entire life in prison rather than to just die quickly. Now, most people say both of them are horrible, but most people, at the party would say if they had to choose, they would choose the life imprisonment rather than dying. But the banker here, the host of the party, he believes that, you know, a quick execution is more humane, more ethical than making someone suffer and locking them in a cell for their entire lives while they go crazy. And so there's a young lawyer, a young lawyer at the party, and he basically says that if he had to choose, both of them are bad. But if he had to choose between being executed, death penalty, like you did a horrible crime, that your choices are death penalty or life imprisonment. The young lawyer says if he had to choose, he would take the life imprisonment. Again, keep in mind that the young lawyer didn't do anything. He's not a criminal. This is just a bet. The story is called The Bet. And so the banker here, again, this banker, very prideful, has lots of money, has lots of money on the stock market. He just has dough. He has lots of dough. Whatever you want to name it. He has the dough, the lettuce, the bread, the cheddar cheese. He has it. All right. He has all the ingredients to make a sandwich. Okay. So basically, the lawyer and the banker, they make a bet. All right. They make a bet, and here is the bet. The bet that the banker wants is that he'll give the lawyer $2 million if he can stay in solitary confinement for 5 years. But the lawyer's like, nah, no, I'm not gonna do that. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do 15 years because I can do 15 years of living in a cell of solitary confinement. No problem whatsoever. I can do it. All right. He's like, I can get this done. No problem whatsoever. And so the banker's like, all right, fine, we'll do that. We'll do that. And so the banker has a really nice house. He has a garden wing. And so he puts the lawyer in the garden wing, and the bet is he's going to stay in there for 15 years. There's a small window for stuff to come in and for the lawyer to send notes out for what he needs. They have specific requirements, right? The banker's like, all right, you can have wine while you're in here for 15 years. You'll be fed and things like that. You cannot leave, not even for 2 minutes. In this 15-year period, you cannot leave this room for even 2 minutes. If you leave for 2 minutes, you lose the $2 million. So that's the bet: $2 million for 15 years of being locked in a small room. Yeah. And so the lawyer is like, I'm gonna do it. So he goes into the room. He has a small little window. And the first year is tough. The second year, he's getting books. He does get an instrument, one instrument, and yeah, it's like between the piano, between book reading. He reads a lot. I mean, there's points where he starts to cry. There's points where he gets angry at himself. So he goes through a lot of different emotions. The lawyer goes through so many different types of emotions and feelings within the room. He reads a lot of books, philosophy, history, everything. What's really interesting though is that he reads the New Testament, right? He reads the New Testament. So from the Christian perspective, I'm a Christian, and from the Christian perspective, this was very interesting to me. So he reads the New Testament, and it's kind of like he understands reality, right? He's starting to see, he kind of like leaves, or his mind stops focusing on earthly things, and he starts to put his mind on heavenly things. He starts to talk about demons and angels. He starts to read the world religions. He starts to read philosophy. And so this lawyer now, and keep in mind he's a lawyer, so he has a background in law. He has a background. He can read and understand, which helps, right? Because he's a lawyer, you understand that he's done some reading in his life, right? He knows how to critically think. He knows how to analyze. He knows how to read a text and draw information from it, right? And so while he's reading the New Testament, he takes like a year, almost a year, to read the New Testament. So he reads about Christ, he reads about these books, and the narrator here does make some comments about, the New Testament is not really that thick, right? It shouldn't take you a year to read it, but it takes him a year to read it, and it makes sense because I've read the New Testament, and if you truly want to understand what's in the New Testament, you cannot read it quickly. It's not a book that's meant to be read quickly. Literally, you can take one verse and break it down all day long, because the New Testament is constructed in such a way that every verse is packed filled with information. I mean, it's just packed filled with information. And you need, honestly, the New Testament, it breaks you down, and it really makes you look within. And it points out things within you that you need to fix, that you need to see God to fix. And so this man here, it's like he's, going face to face with God himself, because he spends a lot of time meditating. And keep in mind, while all of this is happening, this man is getting older. His skin is he's losing weight. He doesn't see anybody. He barely talks to people. He's reading a lot of these books. And so, 5 years go by, 8 years go by, 10 years go by, 15 years, pretty much, a couple days are left. And now 15 years have gone by. The banker's stressed out. He's lost a lot of money over the past 15 years. He's no longer ultra rich. He still has $2 million. But he says to us, or he says to himself that, if he gives the man the $2 million that he promised him, he's going to be bankrupt. All right. He's going to be bankrupt. He's going to be ruined, because he doesn't, the $2 million will be it, because he's lost so much money in over the course of 15 years that, if he gives the $2 million, that will be it for him. That it'll all be over. And so basically what happens is that the banker plans to kill the young lawyer, or the now 40-year-old lawyer, because he's been in there for 15 years in this garden wing of his house. The banker was going to kill him. He was going to blame it on the watchman, which is really, really cruel, because the banker has servants, and the watchman is one of the servants. He was going to kill the lawyer and then pin it on the watchman. But when he goes into the room, he makes sure that the watchman is not there watching him, and well, not there watching him. That's funny. So he goes in to try to kill the young lawyer. But when he reaches the room of the lawyer, the lawyer looks old. He looks dead already. He looks like a skeleton. He's like, oh man, I could just literally throw him on the bed and smother him and kill him. It's be mad easy. But before he goes through with it, he sees this paper that's in front of the young lawyer, and he reads it, and the young lawyer says, everything is passing away. Like, from a Christian perspective, this hit hard, right? Because from a Christian perspective, one thing that the Bible really talks about is that, well, our lives on earth are very short. I mean, most people the vast majority of human beings never reach 100, all right? People start dying quickly once you reach 60. I mean, lots. If you're unhealthy when you reach 60, let's say you have a lot of medical conditions, when you reach 60, your body's really going to start to fight you. And people that, have really, one or two or three really tough health conditions, um, they pass away in their 60s. If you have some good health, you can make it into your 70s, and if you take care of yourself, you can even see your 80s. But people start dropping like flies. By 70, 75, we start, people start counting family members, friends that are just passing away. Um, and by your 80s, I mean, it's pretty much last one standing. And by, from 85 to 95, man, people that just start dropping, just one by one. 85 to 95, people to just start dropping and dropping and dropping. So, you know, you're young between, between your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, you know, that's really when you have to do something with your life. I mean, yes, you can do something with your life in your 60s and your 70s, but again, 65 and older, that's when the health conditions start taking people, they start passing away. And by 75, man, that cohort of 75 to 100, that period of 25 years, man, people just drop like flies. Um, and, the lawyer, he's like, all of it is worthless because all of it's passing away, all of it's going away. And he says something about it. It's crazy that some people would give up heaven for earthly things, or giving up heaven for earth. So he wanted the $2 million at a point in his life, but now since he's read the New Testament, he's read all this philosophy, he's read the world religion, he's figured out that life on earth is just not what it seems to be. It's like a mirage. Again, this is like from a Christian perspective, and I mean, you can say he draws upon some other religions, but at the core of the Christian belief is that life is just a brief moment, and we can say, yeah, it's kind of like a mist, a mirage, something that just comes and goes, and heaven and hell is something that exists, and Christians believe that there's a heaven and there's a way to go to heaven through Christ, and those without Christ go to hell. So this becomes very philosophical, well, not philosophical, but very religious, and specifically with the Christian idea. And pretty much the lawyer pretty much just says in this letter that he wrote, that was in front of him, that the banker was reading, that 5 minutes before the appointed time where he would get the $2 million, he's gonna escape the room. And that's exactly what he does. 5 minutes before the appointed time, he escapes the room, and he just goes away. And the banker is very happy, well, happy and also conflicted, because the letter really just wallops him. The letter that the lawyer wrote just wallops him, because this banker, all of his life, all he's been thinking about is worldly possessions. All he's been thinking about is money. All he's been thinking about is his servants, his good life. And he was willing to kill a man. He was going to kill the lawyer to keep his money. So he is a very carnal, fleshly, worldly man that was willing to kill somebody just so that he could keep his money. But the letter just really knocks him out of the park, because the letter pretty much reveals to him that we are gonna die. No human being can escape death. We're all gonna die, and you don't get a guarantee of 100 years. Some people, they're out at 50. Some people are out at 75. Some people are out at 12. Kids die too. I mean, I know that's morbid. I know nobody wants to hear that, but all the time, people die in their teens. People die in their 20s. Car accidents, drug overdoses, diseases, cancer. Some people just die in their sleep. I mean, death comes for everybody at any time, at any age. No one has a guarantee that they'll see tomorrow. And so the banker, this really wobbles him because he's very old. And so death could come for him. He has more days of life behind him than in front of him. And so it kind of like messes with him because, well, look at this man that was about to get $2 million. He gives it up, and now he's realized his own mortality. Most people never sit down and really think about their own mortality, that, oh, one day I'm going to die. And every single thing that matters to me on this planet will just not matter anymore. And so it's a wake up call. It is a wake up call for the banker, and it really rocks him. But pretty much that's how the story ends. With the lawyer escaping, not collecting the money, and the banker's just left with this realization that, well, one day he'll lose his money no matter what he does. All of the money on the stock market, his home, his house, all of it will be gone, because that's just the way life goes. And the lawyer's like, listen, I've found heaven. I will not give up heaven for the earthly things, for the mirage of this earth. So very, very interesting. In terms of, well, that's the deeper meaning. That's the analysis here. The bet is something. Well, we can say the lawyer. Well, can we say that the lawyer lost? I mean, if we're talking about the money, if we're talking about the wager, yes, the lawyer lost because he didn't do he did the 15 years, but he personally, in the letter, he personally said, listen, I'm withdrawing my claim to the money that I was going to win, because I mean, he made it 15 years. It was only 5 minutes left. He could have waited 5 minutes and get the money, but he said to himself, listen, I don't care about the money anymore. I found the truth, and the truth is that this world is a mirage. It's passing away, and he's not going to give up on heaven for the worldly possessions of this world. So there's a lot of soul searching here. And it kind of reveals the greediness, the worldliness of the banker, that he just loves his wealth, his luxury goods, and he's willing to kill for it. So it kind of really shows you how much of a monster the banker is, and how much liberty the lawyer received by staying in that room for 15 years. Because he said in 15 years he's done everything that he could through books, through reading. He said he's loved many women. He's traveled many places. He's seen many things of the world because he's read all these books. And again, through books, you can literally travel the world. And I know that might sound very cheesy, but when writers, some writers take 5, 10, 15 years to write a book, to write a good book. I mean, some writers take a long time to write a good book, to write one book. And so the amount of writing, the detail, the outpouring of themselves on the page, when you read it, you do see the world through their eyes, because they make sure to categorize and really get very specific with every detail that they've experienced, that's in their mind, and they put it on the page. So that says a lot about, well, your perception of reality, where you're going when you die, and what you believe will happen to your soul when you die. So this begs a lot of questions. It begs a lot of questions about the lawyer. It begs a lot of questions about the banker, and ultimately, what is valuable? And again, this all started with the bet of, is the death penalty more humane or better than life in prison? And ultimately, I guess we can come to the conclusion, even though that the lawyer didn't win the bet, technically speaking, but I think he did win the bet in terms of, he was right about life in solitude was better than dying, because by spending 15 years in solitude, he got to experience the world through books, and also he got to understand the meaning of life, and that, that life is not just this thing that you live on earth, that there's much more to it, and there is a spiritual, or there's something more to the universe than just what we see. That's the conclusion that he comes to. He comes to the conclusion that there is a heaven, right? the lawyer comes to the conclusion that there's a heaven, that there's something that is much more valuable than what's on earth. So to for the lawyer, living those 15 years in solitude were much more beneficial than dying. I mean, the banker wasn't going to kill him, but he was going to kill him. But um, I think the lawyer was right, because he did receive something much more valuable than the $2 million by spending that 15 years in solitude. So that's all I had to say about this work. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.